The year was 2008. I think it was early November. That doesn't really matter. All that matters is I had a killer flu. You know, one of those ones that make your whole body just feel sick and achy all over? At first, I spent most of my time trying to sleep, lying on the couch and watching sitcom returns. I think that's the worst part of staying home sick, boredom and daytime TV. After the first day, I was able to get up and walk around, even able to stomach some food and water. So being the internet junkie I was at the time, I started to browse the net for something to cheer me up. It didn't take long before I ended up on some horror story website. Almost all of the stories written in first person like true accounts of terrifying events. Some of them even urged the reader to believe what they were reading was true. It was all good and fun for a while, reading about possessed children and interdimensional beasts, but I got more tired and I felt sicker than ever. Keeping open a few tabs of stories I thought were interesting, I crashed on the couch, drowning in my own cold, putrid sweat. I woke up feeling dry and drained, but much better than I had earlier. Starving and tired, but better. I looked up at the digital alarm clock across my room, 2:30 something AM. I decided that with my empty stomach and restlessness, I might as well get up. Staying home for one more day wouldn't hurt. So I got up, made some toast on stale white bread, smearing what little peanut butter I could scrape from the sides of the jar. Crunching on my bland toast and sipping from a glass of flat diet Dr. Pepper, I walked through the dark back to my computer to read the remainder of stories to put me back to sleep. Most of them were entertaining and not very scary at all. Of course, I'm sure watching surreal horror movies as a young teenager strengthened my tolerance for that kind of stuff. So I figured that I'd be able to lull myself to sleep with some mind-numbing and totally fictional stories. But none of the stories interested me anymore. Some story of a paranormal stalker in a trench coat, a girl in a white dress soaked in blood. They were all so boring and so cliché, really nothing I had read already. I thought to myself that there had to be something better than these. I just had to look deeper. So what started as a light internet search and turned into a 2-hour quest, I had to find something that was actually scary. It's hard to explain, but when you're that bored and restless, you really want something that touches your emotions. You want to just feel something. Happy, sad, afraid, it really doesn't matter. So I searched, and found nothing that grabbed my interest until something like the 6th page of Google search, all the way at the bottom of the page. It was some sort of message board, more like an image board than anything else. I can't remember the name because it was gibberish as far as I could tell. Something like .net, of course that's not the actual URL, but you get the idea. Randomletters.net. The thing that caught my interest wasn't only that it was dedicated to entirely scary pictures and short stories, but that it was a freaking ancient, like 1995 ancient. White background all over, Times New Roman black font. As far as I could tell, that was when the last post was made. Most of the stories were pretty weak, but since they were all pretty short, 100 to 500 word range, I could bear to sift through a few. There were some demented images, most were badly doctored in whatever equivalent of Photoshop people had back then, but a few stuck with me. They were too terrible to just be scraped together, of course. I'd seen far worse, but the images of mangled corpses, car accidents, and such unnerved me since it was late at night. Against my better judgment, I continued to lurk the boards, just hoping to satiate my ravenous hunger to be scared, and scared bad. But then I saw it. A blue hyperlink thread title. "Stop, don't go any further," it said. Well, of course I had to see this. They used cap locks. Wondering if this was some dud or who was a phone-esque thread. I clicked to be greeted by a story of moderate length, with no post in reply. While I can't access the story anymore for reasons I'll state below. While I can't access the story anymore, I'll summarize what the thread said best as I can. The Monsters game. You started reading this message, so now it's your turn to play the Monsters game. It's already started. What you'll need to play is a room, a closed door, and to be alone in the room. At this point I got chills and turned around, half At this point I got chills and turned around, half for sick, self-satisfying humor and the other half, well, because I think you'll get it. Without these things you cannot play the monsters game, so you lose. If you do not fit the qualifications, keep reading. There's no use stopping now. If you do, you will lose. The monster is ancient. It has lived among humans as long as we have all lived, and preyed on those who knew of its game. Nobody who has seen the monster has lived. What the monster does is unclear. All who lose the game will be taken away by it. What happens after is unknown. Once the game is started, some nights the monster will knock on your door. The goal of the game is to open the door no matter how much fear you feel. If you do not obey the monster, you will lose the game. If you open the door to the monster, it will not be there to greet you. You will live to see another day. The rules of the game is simple. The monster may appear at any hour of the night. To be fair, the monster knocks loudly enough to wake you up. You must answer without hesitation under all circumstances. The monster is not like being unwelcome. If you are taken away by the monster, there is no coming back. And all that was loaded with spelling mistakes, as if it was typed in a hurry. But other than that, it was perfectly understandable. It and monster were always capitalized. I must admit, while I wasn't scared by it, I loved the sketchy way it was told in ritual-like format, something this site was really lacking in, so I added the story to my favorites and saved in a Word document, alongside other few stories I read that night. Sleep was finally pulling me in, so I went to bed. I barely slept that night. The next morning, I didn't feel as terrible as before. It was just like a cold now, but after considering going to work, I decided to be risky to strain myself and get sick again. So I called in sick again, and stayed home. After a few hours of extra sleep, I got up and went through my morning ritual. It felt great to take a shower and eat breakfast without feeling awful, but I had a headache like none I had ever seen before, probably from all the late night surfing and oversleeping. I've always been sensitive in terms of sleep-related stuff. After a few hours of trying to occupy myself, now not in a half stupor from sickness like the previous couple days, I decided to check my email. To my dismay, my computer wouldn't turn on. I tried holding down the power button, taking the plug out and plugging it back in. Everything. It was totally crashed. I felt rage begin to pour into me for my bad luck. The computer was fairly new and would cost quite a bundle to replace, but managed to hold it back. I'd just get my friend Ted to come look at it. He's a computer technician. I thought so might just be a stupid mistake like dust in the system. After a day of lethargy, I called up Ted, who told me he would come in ASAP despite my argument that my germs were still all over the apartment. Ted arrived after a few minutes or so, and of fiddling around, he said shot. Just like that. He explained the hard drive or something had burned out and was practically blackened. For a new computer, I guess that was extremely rare, but it could have been defective. Thankfully, there wasn't too much data on the computer that had been backed up. Unfortunately, the text of the monster game and all the creepy stories as well as the link to that old website had been lost. I shivered at the implications of saving the weird stories and my computer crashing the next day, but I waved off the fridge horror and the whole situation. The computer's fan was broken, that's all. That night, I struggled with trying to sleep. There was something keeping me awake other than my usual insomnia. Probably the fact that I'd overslept so late, around midnight, as I was finally starting to drift off. I was jolted awake by some sharp cracking noise. A knock at my door. My heart thudded in my chest at the revelation, but in my dreamlike state, I figured it was just Ted. I walked to the door and opened it. Not felt my stomach turning as I pulled my hand on the doorknob, but nobody stood outside. But I could have sworn I saw something tall and sickly pale walking down the hall and out the door. Hey guys, I hope you enjoyed that creepy story from Reddit. It was found on No Sleep. I'll leave a link to it. I really actually enjoyed this story. It creeped me out myself, so I'll leave a link like I said. And before I do go, thanks for getting us to 400 subscribers. I can't believe we made that in just over a week. So thanks so much for that. And remember, if you like this video, hit that like button, subscribe for more, and as always, thanks for watching.